Man, that bass line just hits hard. Hey,
Love it.
everybody, how you guys doing today? Welcome back to the Codex Station's Comic Character of the Week, where we deep dive into a certain character, a different character every week. And today we're one short person, but he's here with us in spirit. Kevin will not make it tonight, but the three of us will take it. And as always, I've got with me down below Dan the Man Kelly, the formerly on Instagram, but now live on Instagram. The man owns Instagram. Check him out. Dan, give us a little hi and tell us about yourself there.
Well, I can tell you that if I own Instagram, I would have a much more impressive setup behind me.
That's what somebody who would own Instagram would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Just search hashtag Dan Kelly Art. I post a few times a week. You all know the spiel. Go and give me a follow. I'm working my way towards 700. So,
Nice.
Yeah, hit me up and post the art, the writing, the music, like the last album I put out. Occasionally, I will post lyrics or songs from this. So
I have that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
I do
masterpiece.
Definitely check it out.
And then this guy right here.
This guy over here, he's the Tim the Terrific. Tim the Terrific. Tim the Trim. Tim the Terrible. How you doing, buddy?
I am amazingly fantastic and ready for business. Speaking of
a lot of Marvel puns in that.
I know. It's amazing. Spectacular.
Excelsior.
We're on the socials, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. All you got to do is hit at the Codex Station on your favorite social media platform, and where we're live streaming right now, especially on Kick. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, watching us over there. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share, and follow so you don't miss any more content like this all the time, every time. And
wow, when you mentioned Kick, your voice was like, "Hello,
hey,
hello. How are you all doing tonight?"
Hey,
got my hey, and ready
you know the shoulder trick.
Hey,
how's it going? There you are. What do you have going on outside of this?
Yeah,
well, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner. I also do occasionally post on Instagram if Dan allows me to. It's the Slab Guy 77.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
I am a generous overlord, and I allow it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. All right, Tim, this is your character, your pick of the week. Who are we covering? If we can't already tell by the background,
we are covering the man without fear, Daredevil. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Murdock himself. If you are in trouble with the man without
feet.
No, he has feet. All artists that have drawn him with feet. If you are in trouble with the law, get in touch with Murdoch and Nelson, and they will help you out.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, Dan, why don't you give us the details on this guy?
I was going to say, with that intro, it's too bad the Dukes of Hazzard never looked him up.
Because they're always in trouble with the law.
That's true.
All right. So his first appearance was all the way back in April of 1964 in Daredevil issue 1, created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Bill Everett. And if you look at the Uncle Gary video, you can see that book along with the 10 that followed after that.
Yeah, that's how he had. I thought it was the first 12. Didn't he have the first 12?
He only showed us 1 through 11. I wouldn't be surprised if he had the rest.
He does. He does.
So Matt Murdock was blinded in a chemical accident as a child when an out-of-control truck was veering down the street, and he jumped and pushed an old man out of the way to save him. And this vat of radioactive chemicals came out, him in the face. It blinded him, but it gave made all of his other senses superhuman while giving him essentially what is a radar sense. His father was a kind of down on his luck boxer named Badlin Jack Murdoch, which I always thought would be a fantastic band name. So after his father was killed because he refused to throw a match for some gangsters, Matt was left an orphan. He was taken in and trained by this mysterious man named Stick, who taught him how to hone his senses and how to fight, taught him all these martial arts. Years later, he graduates law school. He becomes a defense attorney in Hell's Kitchen in New York, which is where he's from, while also protecting the city as the vigilante Daredevil. He has the superhuman enhanced senses, the radar sense, which is basically like an echolocation type of thing. He's a master of many multiple arts and skilled in multiple forms of hand-to-hand combat. And he has his stick that he'll hit you in the head with.
His Billy Club.
Billy Club.
Club.
It's Billy Club.
Yeah.
Now, don't the different versions of them describe that echolocation differently? You know, from movie to comic book to any other medium that we've seen it in.
It's something that, like, you know, it's kind of changed all the time by different writers. And, you know, he almost got his own animated series at one point where they were going to give him a dog.
Wow.
Did the dog go on fighting a crime with him or something like that?
I think it was going to be like his seeing eye dog.
Dare pup.
Oh my God.
All
Don't
right,
you dare, pup. Wait a minute.
So before we jump into the segments here, we should actually hit our sponsor up. Tim, if you could throw that up for us, it is W Energy Drink. And you can go check them out at WGG. There you go. And you can save 10% on that order by using the word CODEX, that's COD-X, at checkout. So definitely check it out. It's a good, clean energy drink. The team has all tried it. It has no bad aftertaste. It's got no jitters. It's, you know, a good, clean drink. I highly recommend it. Dan loves it. He loves the blue raspberry. So you've got to check it out. Dan loves it. You got to check it out.
That's right.
Yeah, I drink it at least once a day. It's usually twice in the morning, and then in the morning on the way to work, and the afternoon on the way out of work. And the tub of it I have is almost empty, so I'm going to have to leave it soon.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Code-X at checkout to save 10%.
Okay, very good. So on to our first segment. And now the first segment is, you guys know the drill. It's what scenario does this character work best in? So,
there's
Dog.
There's Devil Dog.
There's
Devil Dog.
Pup.
Dare Pup. He's already contributing to the show.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that's all right. It's fine. So, Tim, what scenarios works best for him?
So the scenarios that work best for Daredevil is when he is alone. Matt Murdock is a devout Catholic, and his Catholic guilt works very well for him. And I think that when he teams up, it works, but when he's alone is when it works best. And he's able to protect Hell's Kitchen the way that he needs to without any oversight or having to pull punches or anything like that. I think that in addition to that, his ability as a lawyer is some of the best, if not the best, in the Marvel universe. I think maybe second to Walter's She-Hulk, but I think he might even be better than her, because where she does high-profile cases, Matt Murdock takes care of the everyman. He takes care of the people on the streets and doesn't charge them money, takes things in trade or return or things like that. And that works very well for him. Dan, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I like the lawyer aspect of it. Like you said, how he can do it in conjunction with being Daredevil, because he can, you know, if there's somebody that doesn't, you know, get what they deserve in the court of law, they'll get what they deserve from Daredevil. And, you know, he can go out and be Daredevil and, you know, get information to help him with law cases, you know, and that was, you know, I like that. I like they did this whole long storyline about where Matt Murdock was, you know, actually set law precedent for how costumed characters, how costume heroes could give testimony in court and not have to reveal their secret identities, which was a fantastic story, and not have to reveal their secret identities to be able to give testimony. And it was all based on, you know, so that him as Daredevil would be able to do that as well. But that's, you know, something where like it really mixed the two things well together. And yeah, I like it. I don't, you know, I like seeing him when he teams up, you know, occasionally with characters. Spider-Man and Punisher are the two that I think he teams up with best. Spider-Man, because Spidey will bring that kind of lightheartedness out of him, and then Punisher because, like you said, he's a devout Catholic, and as much as he knows what the Punisher has done, he still feels like he understands why he does it, and still feels like he can save him.
Yeah.
Which is something that, like, I thought they did really well on the second season of the Netflix show, you know, with him trying to do that. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of interest in seeing him like as part of an organized team. You know, it's one thing when they do like the big crossovers and everybody comes in, they're doing stuff like that. You know, that's, you know, every character that's not a team player kind of gets thrown in the mix there. But yeah, like he works better when he operates solo, or you know, or maybe with like one kind of partner tagging along here and there.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not like a long-term thing.
Yeah. It's got to be short. Couple issues, maybe 7 at the most, and that's it.
Yeah. So what about you, Sal?
Well, you guys hit all my points. I mean, I don't have much to add to this, but I will add a little bit. I like the lawyer aspect for everything that you just said, Dan. I like the character. I like the devout Catholic part of him, which you mentioned, Tim. And I think that's a driving force in his character. I really think he uses that as part of his divining, I should say, or definition. That's what I'm trying to say. And I like it when they go into depth on the echolocation, or how he's seeing things, or how he's reading the scene. You know, he could tell that someone's about to pull the trigger from the way they're reacting, or their hearts, you know, accelerated, or they're, you know, that type of thing.
He can tell indentations of numbers on keys in dust.
Yeah, right.
Or like how he can read the newspaper just by running his hand over it.
Right. So I mean, I like that sort of thing as well. And I do agree with the working with one other person, or solo, mostly solo, but one person indeed. Spider-Man, I think, is best, but I also like Punisher for the reasons you said, Dan, because they said there's so much in conflict or contrast with each other, but he still feels the need to save him because I think he understands Punisher or where he's coming from, you know, but thinks he can save him. That type of situation.
It's almost like he feels like, you know, if his life had taken just a little different path, that he could be on the same track as the Punisher.
Very much so.
Right.
I think that to put my final point on this, I think like when he teams up with Spider-Man, like you said, Dan, it brings out the lightheartedness in him, and it allows Spider-Man to go a little harder, but Daredevil keeps him from going as hard as he does. But on the flip side of the coin, when he's with Punisher allows him to go harder, but Punisher won't let him cross that line. All the while, Murdoch is trying to save Frank Castle, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
No, it does. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because with Spidey, he can do all the acrobat stuff, like bouncing around buildings and this and that. And then when it's with Punisher, it's like, all right, well, my dad was a boxer, and I can do that too. So
now it's time to hit things and hit them hard.
Yeah.
Now it's time to hit things. Yep, definitely. All right, that's awesome. Good job, guys. Let's go on to our next segment, which is badass moments. So, Tim, give us your badass moments.
Good ones there.
So I've got.
He's got 20. Sit back and relax, people. He's got 20.
I've got two major ones. So the first is from Civil War, when he did the Judas quote to Tony Stark, I believe. Or it might have been Mr. Fantastic, where they were taking him into the prison in the negative zone. And he turned and he looked and he said, "How's your 7 pieces of silver?" That was amazing when he said that. That showed who I believe it was Tony Stark that he said that to. It might have been Mr. Fantastic. Either way, both of them were on that side. And when he looked at him and he said that with the smile on his face and all of that stuff, that just was like, damn, Mike, drop. He was like, all of you know that you're wrong and what you're doing is wrong. And you just sold your souls to the worst people you could sell them to, all for freedom. When all that's being stripped away from you right now. I hope you enjoyed your 7 pieces of silver and they took him away. Oh, God almighty. And the other one that I have that immediately came to mind is from the recent Zdarsky run, not the 12, but before that, volume 6, when Spider-Man was there and Daredevil's talking to him, like Daredevil was knocking the crap out of Kingpin and all this other stuff, and Elektra is getting ready to do her stuff, and Spidey shows up and he's pretty much given Murdoch a lecture like, look, we know what you've done before with Shadowland and all that stuff, and if you go so far again, I'm going to come here and knock you around. And Murdoch basically, not word for word, but basically was like, I am tired of hearing that from you. You have done as bad of things as I have. And if you want to stand there and judge me, you need to judge yourself. But know this, if you come for me, I'm going to hurt you. And you know I can. And Spidey just kind of hung on the wall for a minute and didn't say nothing. And he's like, I'm watching you, Matt, and took off. I was like, God almighty. When Matt Murdock gets to the point to where he's had enough, like he is completely done and finished with the theatrics, the politics, and all that stuff of superheroism, and somebody comes, especially Peter Parker, right, who's supposed to be his friend and understand, but when they come and show up and try and lecture him, he's like, don't lecture me. All of you have blood on your hands. I'm not the only one. Yeah, it was because he killed that guy, or he was being charged with murder for the guy in that run. Right. And he looked at Peter and he's like, you've done it too. All of you have, every single one of you, and you want to come and judge me. Well, come on. I was like, God, all right. Those are the two that immediately come to mind. I've got a million more, but Dan, I want to hear some of what you have.
All right. Yeah, so that that Zdarsky one. I mean, both those were good, but yeah, that Zdarsky one is. And you know, when he had him kill the guy that he accidentally killed in the run, I was convinced at some point that it was going to be, oh, he didn't really kill him. It was going to be like a frame job, or it was going to be this. And then after a while, it's like, oh no, he really did. They kind of made it seem like he was searching, and it might have been something. It's like, oh no, he really did that. And so what I have is from Dark Knight, Daredevil Dark Knights 1 through 3. It was a miniseries, and the first 3 issues were written and drawn by Ron Garney. And he doesn't really fight any supervillains in this. It's this terrible blizzard has hit New York, and he was in the hospital, and there was this girl there that was in dire need of I think it was a heart transplant. And like she was on the operating table, and like all right, she needs this heart now, and like the heart was on the way, but then this blizzard hit, and and they couldn't get there, and he's like, I'm gonna get it here. How long do I have? And they told him, excuse me, whatever it was, like 2 hours or something. And it's 3 issues of him getting this this heart from the helicopter that like crashed in the water, like saving the pilot and them, and then getting that, and then just making his way through this blizzard in New York as he's injured and he can barely get through it, and he's like having to deal with criminals along the way and all this stuff, and like he almost dies, but he gets it there just in the nick of time to save her. And like as you're reading the 3 issues, you see like what a harrowing experience it was, but how he absolutely refused to give up. Kind of reminding me of when we did the Nightwing episode, and one of my moments for Nightwing was him saving the girl in the desert and just like refusing to give up and just walking and walking until they found someone. Wow. Like how much they will go through to save somebody else. The second one I got is from the Hardcore storyline, when Daredevil just beats down Kingpin and dumps his unconscious body in front of all of his underlings, all these criminal underworlds, and declares himself the new Kingpin of New York. Like,
yeah,
damn.
that
how do you argue with that?
That whole fight between him and Kingpin had been going on for decades in our time, years in storyline time. And to have it culminate into something like that, you're like, man.
And then my final one is, and I meant to look up which issue it was, and I can't remember, but it's from the current Daredevil storyline, and it was an issue that just came out like a month or 2 ago.
11 or 12.
Yeah, of the current run.
Okay.
He was trying. There's characters. This rich brother and sister, the Stromans, who had done all this stuff against Kingpin, and now Kingpin's out of the picture. So they're incredibly rich and trying to manipulate, screw around with Daredevil. So he goes before them, and sorry, still getting over this allergies. He goes before him and basically like prostrates himself in front of him, and says like, I'm going to surrender myself to you. I give up. You win. And they're like, well, how do you know? How do we know that we could trust this? And blah blah. And he gouges his own eyes out, which he's blind, so I mean whatever. But he gouges his own eyes out in front of them to prove his loyalty. And then when they think they can trust him, the brother gets too close, and he's like, "Oh no!" and he gouges his eyes out, and then tells them like, "I'm not really on your side, like, but this is the warning, to you." And like these people, as we've seen over Zdarsky's run the past few years, like they were manipulative. They feared no one. They were used to getting their way all the time and would just manipulate people just for their own amusement. And this was the first time that they actually were afraid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the three I got. What about you, Sal?
So I think one of them is the same, and this is where he takes over Kingpin. He beats the crap out of him, takes over, becomes the Kingpin of crime. And that was Daredevil 227 to 233 by Frank Miller. Is that right? Is that the same one?
No, the one I was talking about was from the Brian Michael Bendis run.
Oh, okay. So this is old school,
the Marvel Knights stuff, right, Dan?
No,
era?
it was in Marvel Knights. I think Marvel Knights, and I think of like the original when it first launched with Quesada and Kevin Smith. But that was in the Marvel Knights.
Okay. So there was that situation where he beats the crap out of the Kingpin, takes over as as Kingpin's job, and that was that whole series is just badass to me in a heartbeat. But the other two I have are more scenes as well. The time where he fought Bullseye in Daredevil 180, 182, he just killed Elektra, and he goes up against Bullseye, and he's just mentally unstable, but because of all she just died in his arms, so he's just he's checked out at that point, and he goes after Bullseye. So that whole series right there was great. And also when he went up against the Punisher shortly after that, and he fought Punisher because the Punisher, I forget why they were actually fighting about it, but it was just an epic fight between the two of them, and it's one of the defining moments for me for Daredevil when he was fighting Punisher at during this time frame of his story. So those are my badass moments.
Nice,
some good ones.
Yeah.
All right, so for after badass moments, we got to now do the flip side. Why does this character suck? What don't we like about him? So Tim, I know 0. Moving on, Dan.
No, so the one thing that's good about him, which is his devout Catholicism, like being a devout Catholic, is also a negative. That I think is the worst thing about him, because he lets it drive him too much to the point to where he refuses to bend on certain things, including letting himself get hurt instead of taking a break, taking a rest, maybe let somebody else take the reins for a minute, so you can get your composure, get a breath in you, and then go back out and fight. But he's like, no, I can't do that. Catholic guilt won't let me do that. I have to go out and I have to do this, and I have to make repentance and all this other stuff. Man, come on. I get it. I get it. But sometimes you need to just take a break. The Lord will not be mad at you if you don't punch that guy in the face right this second and you go, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm ready.
Now ready.
Right, exactly.
Like, and it seems like a lot too. He'll have the thing about questioning like his Catholicism with the fact that he calls himself the Daredevil with like a little devil thing and runs around beating people up, and
Yeah. I think writers, and I know we always go to that seems to be like the catch-all. The writers, man, the writers are
I
horrible.
mean, that's who makes
But
the stories.
Except for Zeb
yeah,
Wells, he's excellent.
he's amazing, amazingly bad. But anyways, no, I think writers lean on that too much because like everybody wants to put their own spin on it, and they want to make him feel as guilty as possible for 7 issues, and then ta-da. Yeah, his Catholic guilt is his one of his best features and also his worst. Dan?
I like I said earlier, I think he agree with you when he works better either as a solo character or when he's teaming up with just one other person. I don't like him on a team. Like, not everybody that's in the Marvel universe has to be an Avenger.
Mm.
I think, and I especially hated when Bendis relaunched the Avengers and it was a team of characters or like half the team, like this character should not be Wolverine and Spider-Man and Daredevil. Like, these are not Luke Cage. These are not characters that should be main team Avengers. They should be like reservists at best. I don't like him in the confines of a team like that. And I don't like when they neglect the legal aspect of the character, which seems to be whenever there's one thing that they want to change or mess around within the story, it's like the fact that he's a lawyer. Like, that's what they go to first. Like, oh, that's the first thing that we can jettison above anything else with the character is let's not deal with the stuff of being a lawyer. And there's some great storylines. Like the current run is fantastic, and he's not doing lawyer stuff.
He wasn't Daredevil half of the time in that run.
Yeah. And but he still kind of questions too. Like, even still, he talks about it as like, I was a lawyer and this and that with the law. But I think that's such a crucial element of the character with the fact that he is a lawyer, and then he has to, kind of justify to himself all the stuff like, I'm a lawyer and I'm here to uphold the law, but I'm also a vigilante who kind of acts outside the law. And then his Catholicism too, throw that in the mix, like, oh, I'm out here with doing all this violence, but I believe in this. Like, it's good to him kind of wrestle with these things, and then you take out the lawyer stuff with him, and it's it's a pretty interesting part of him that's just taken away.
Yeah, he's very promiscuous too.
Oh yeah, he gets around almost as much as Nightwing does.
Yeah, very much so. What is it?
So,
Tuesday? I'm gonna go visit Felicia. All right.
What about you, Sal? What are you not a fan of with him?
I kind of agree with the team aspect mostly. I feel like if he's on any huge team or any huge event, they don't utilize him like he should be utilized in a fight or something like that. They really don't. And if they do, I have not seen them push away too much from the lawyer aspect. Maybe I just haven't seen that part, but seen that as much. Maybe because of the current run does have a lot of him as Daredevil and not as the lawyer. I'm thinking about that now. I don't like that either because I feel like that is part of his personality. It's the dichotomy of the two, being the good lawyer and then being the vigilante at night type of thing. As for the Catholic guilt thing, I think it kind of further defines him. But I agree with you, Tim. I think he does use it too far, but that's Catholic guilt. I mean,
guess.
I grew up a Catholic, so
I'm not Catholic, so I wouldn't know.
I feel his pain when he talks about this type of stuff.
I'm light beer Catholic. I'm Methodist.
You're a light beer Catholic. You're the biannual.
Yeah,
biannual.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, gotcha. So those are two really things I don't like about him too much. So that's really all I have. I mean, other than that, I don't mind the character and what aspects they have him in, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so let's head on to our next topic is the top covers. So these are 3 covers from each of us, and I think we're going to show Kevy's on this one, aren't we?
Yeah. You want to show his first?
Yeah, show his first, and then we'll go to yours, and then Dan, and back to mine.
Perfect.
And we'll check out what covers that we all liked.
So these are Kevin's covers here. I'll take the one in the middle. That is Daredevil. Let me see. Let me get my Kevin glasses on. That is 184.
Yep. Yeah,
no,
184.
no more Mr. Nice Guy. By God, look at that cover. That cover is amazing. Daredevil with a gun. You never see that.
Is that
And
like the 44 Magnum type of? Didn't that come
yeah,
out during the time frame of Dirty Harry? So everybody had
probably.
a gun like that.
Yeah. And isn't this during Frank Miller's run too?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
so there you go. One of the greatest runs in comic history. Frank Miller on Daredevil. If you want dark and gritty Daredevil, that is it. The
Yeah.
one on the right there that looks like a variant cover,
Mhm.
Daredevil in a more modernized version of his costume, doing some crazy poses.
That's
Looks
got to be
pretty
off the recent
awesome.
run.
It has to be, yeah. But it looks good. I like it. I don't know who the artist is, but it's amazing. And
Find it really
then
quick.
all the way to the left, Dan, what issue number is that? Because I can't see it. But that is right after the death of Elektra.
So that's like 183,
Yeah. Oh,
182, I think.
wow.
182.
So that's just 2 issues away from the center cover. That is amazing. And again, that's in the middle of the Frank Miller run. So yeah, the death of Elektra, that hit him incredibly hard and
Right.
shaped who he was as a character.
There were some there were so many great covers that came from that run. And Frank Miller, he wasn't the artist on the book at the time. It was
he wasn't.
Dave
No. It was Dave
Mazzucchelli. I think
Was it
that's how you
Mazzucchelli?
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mazzucchelli. Mm-hmm.
Enjoy these covers, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy them. You want me to go ahead and go to mine?
Yeah, go to yours.
Okay, so let's take a peek at those. These are mine, ladies and gentlemen. The one on the left there, Here Comes Daredevil #1. That's from the Mark Waid run. One of the best Daredevil runs you will ever read. And I think he wrote it from start to finish. And this takes Matt Murdock back to a place of joy and less Catholic guilt. And he's having more of a good time as Daredevil, because I think at this time, people found out he was Daredevil. And then when people asked him, he's like, "Aren't you Daredevil?" He's like, "No, I'm not Daredevil. No, I'm not. I'm just Matt Murdock, lowly Hell's Kitchen lawyer." "But no, you're Daredevil. It was in the paper, right?" No, that wasn't me. Yeah, but it's an amazing story. The whole thing is really good. The one in the center is Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, #220, and the Fog Whispers Death. This, I think, is classic 80s Daredevil. And just put yourself in the shoes of a petty criminal in New York, and that's what you see coming at you in the middle of a foggy night. You'd shit gold bricks too. Without a doubt,
Yeah, you would.
I think that picture right there is perfect in giving a great visualization of what a criminal could see coming at them, right? Batman can scare you to death, but Daredevil will take your soul. And then on the right is from the Zdarsky run, the Lockdown storyline. Amazing. That's Daredevil #33. The cover alone just lets you know how much he doesn't care anymore. His field of F's is empty, ladies and gentlemen, and so is his basket. And the cover shows this. And where the horn should be, there's flames, and it looks amazing.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
modern artwork at its best, right there.
And that was the storyline when he was in prison, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That
Yes.
was right after the King in Black portion of while he was in prison. That section of the run, you don't need to read that. So you can skip that. But this right here, this is in the middle of it. This is like in the middle of the prison riot, I think. Yeah. All right. Dan's next, right?
Yes.
Okay, Dan, let me find your covers. Here we go.
Oh, I think I found it. Daredevil number 25 was that one from Kevin.
Oh,
it was a variant cover. Sorry, for 2019.
All right.
All right, so starting all the way on the left, the same one I have like Kevin did, Daredevil 182, the one where after Elektra died and he's there hugging the cross, and it's just, it's so stark. He's hugging the cross. The snow's coming down. You can see that he's been there for a while because the snow's building up on him. He's just got this sorrowful look on his face. And yeah, it's a cover that packs a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the far right, an issue from just a few after that, Daredevil 189, which I think they did an homage cover to that as a variant cover recently.
Yes, and you'll see it.
Yeah, and it's just so cool where you see him jumping down, leaping down, kicking down into this, sea of ninjas that you see him holding up swords and they're shooting arrows at him. And it was just it's just such an awesome visual.
Yeah.
Just such a great visual. And then the middle one is from the Marvel Knights series when it was first launched under Marvel Knights as the flagship book, issue 3, where he's there on top of the church with the cross, and his face is kind of concealed in shadow, but you just see those red eyes coming out from it. And it ended up becoming a pretty iconic image because they kind of referenced that on the Netflix show where they had an image that you could tell was clearly
and in the movie
based on this. Yeah, where it was clearly based on this. So for that reason, I had to throw that one in there. But like I said, from that Frank Miller one with Dave Mazzucchelli, I mean, you could easily pick every cover from that run too, because there were some great covers during it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Sal, you ready for yours?
Yes, sir.
All right. There you
All right. So let's start on that left one, which is the homage cover, that 189. That's a Daredevil #1 from the I want to say the current series. But I like the fact that he's actually caught an arrow in one of his hands. And it's, it just looks badass to me. The middle one, Daredevil 164, and he cries, "Father." This is like a flashback, or not a flashback, but a story where he talks to Ben Ehrlich about his identity. But he kind of goes through the history of his father dying, or being killed, for not throwing the match. So this cover was very emotional and very stark. He's got him holding him. It almost looks like a huge chest wound in him. In his, So it's graphic and it's very powerful to me. The last one I went really old school. This was Daredevil #47, and this was a good story too when I read it, and it's not cosmical threat, it's not epic threat, it's Daredevil doing what he's doing. He's sticking up for the little guy that that has a problem, that's being framed or is being targeted by the Kingpin, and as he's jumping through the mob here, he's doing that like a classic Daredevil kick as he's holding onto the rail with one hand and kicking the mobster with the follow through. So it's classic Daredevil to me, and I also, like Uncle Gary, I'm becoming a fan of the larger 1/3 titles on the cover. So thank you, Uncle Gary. I'm becoming a fan of those now. So that's why I like this cover.
Nice. That 47 is amazing. Just imagining these characters in their prime in the 60s and early 70s.
Right. And like I said, there's no epic threat. There's no cosmic level thing going on here. It's just him sticking up for people that have been framed and targeted by the Kingpin,
Yeah. If you wanted cosmic, you read Fantastic Four or Silver Surfer. If you wanted the knockdown, drag out fight, you read Daredevil.
Right. Yeah, Daredevil, right. Outside of when they have like the big line-wide giant crossover things, Daredevil's not a character that needs to be dealing with any kind of epic cosmic stuff. I mean,
I agree.
He's one of those characters like him, Punisher, like I'd even say Luke Cage, even though he's like really got a lot of superpowers, like they're characters that work best when they're street level characters. Not thinking, they're not fighting Galactus, they're not fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, what are we gonna do? We'll fight his thugs on the ground. You guys go fight Galactus.
You guys take care of that.
They can't fight superpowered characters, but they're not fighting characters that like juggle moons.
Right, exactly. Daredevil, why don't you go ahead and tell Galactus to get on out of here?
Use your lawyer skills and tell him to take a hike.
No.
All right, so these were great covers, and we have a site that you guys can go to check out great covers, and that's Heroes Corner Comics. If you check out heroescornercomics.com, you can check out the website. You can buy slab books, you can buy back issues, you can buy store exclusive books, and if you use the CODEX, which is CODEX, no hyphen, you can save 20% on that bundle. I buy a lot of covers from there. I think the whole team has bought some stuff from them. Yeah, there's
So I buy from them on the regular.
I got my monthly pull list. You can set that up through the previews app, and you too can own 4 or 5 copies of Venom if you wanted to.
That's right.
You won't be able to order any copies of Venom from them because Sal orders all of them.
I don't think so.
How many covers you getting in, Louis? 25? I will take 70, please.
Sal has the printer where they're made on speed dial, so every month he could call them up and say, how many copies are you printing? Just box them up and ship them to me.
It's like that scene in Parks and Rec. I don't think you heard me. I will take all the copies of Venom you have.
Yeah.
What you heard is you heard that I want a lot of copies. What I said is I want all of the copies of Venom that you have.
Very good, guys. Very good. Thank you very much. I have, just for the record, folks, I have 4, possibly 500. 5 copies. One that I'm sending in for grading next week.
Yeah. Go watch the After Darks, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, it's there. Whoever can find the proper amount of Venom copies that Sal owns from beginning of his time on Codex to present day will win a no prize. And if you know what a no prize is, you're already in the mix. So go find it.
And you know what? We'll bring you on as a extra on one of our After Darks as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Right. The prize is out there. Go find out exactly how many copies of Venom Sal owns from start on Codex all the way to now, and let us know because we don't.
Tim, I'm going to request the end of the year video where you make a clip show of every time we make fun of Sal for having
a lot of footage,
a ridiculous amount of copies of Venom, and you just make one
Dan, you went out.
episode that's just that.
That's a lot.
Did I go out?
Nope, we're here.
Oh, I thought Dan went out on me there for a minute.
Oh, he was talking about all those damn Venom covers.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties right now.
What's the next segment we're supposed to do here?
Oh, the next
He's going to dry his tears with an extra copy of Venom.
Oh my god! Just Venom 15.
You never cry on a Venom book. There's no crying on Venom.
Oh my god! It's
all
amazing Spider-Man 26.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
That's all right. We had a little tangent there, folks. It's okay. Let's get back on track now.
Sure. Yes.
Our next segment is Essential Readings. Yep, Essential Readings. So let's do what we did before. We'll show Kevin's and then go through the horn again. And these are the readings that we all liked and enjoyed and feel that everybody should read.
So here's Kevin's recommended reading. First, he has Born Again. And I know that one of you guys talks about this too. So I will kind of leave it at that. The only thing that I'll say in Kevin's stead is that this is a must read for anybody that's new to Daredevil or is a Daredevil fan that hasn't read it. Guardian Devil, another good storyline. I don't know much about it. It's been a long time. But Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, the Frank Miller and John Romita Jr., if I'm remembering correctly. That is worth every page of reading. That goes through Matt Murdock's origins and all of that stuff. It is wonderful and amazing. So, yeah. Let's see here. My books. Where are you? Oh, here they are. Daredevil, Volume 6, the Zdarsky run, 1 through 36. Like Kevin, he recommends the whole run. I'm following in his lead. This you need to read the entire thing from 1 to 36. You can skip the King in Black stuff if you want to. It's not entirely necessary, but if you want to read it, go for it. Otherwise, the whole thing is amazing. It is epic. It is everything you could want in a Daredevil comic book. This at that time was, I think, and I know some of you guys said it too, was the best Marvel was putting out that was flying under the radar. This
Oh,
whole
yeah.
run was phenomenal, and I can't
Mhm.
speak highly enough about it. I'll go to the bottom real quick. Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, to continue what I was saying through Kevin's recommended readings. This was pinnacle Daredevil in the 90s, and it was a 5-issue run. And Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. Wonderful stuff. Great origin. If you want to know like the history of Matt Murdock becoming Daredevil, going through the years, getting into the red costume, the black costume that he wore in the television series, that's where it came from. Is right there. The Man Without Fear 1-5. Now getting into the center. So those two issues, Volume 1, issues number 305 and 306. Those were some of the first real Daredevil issues I read. And it just so happens to be a team up between Daredevil and Spider-Man. And they are going against a one-off villain that doesn't show up anywhere else except in these two issues. And her name is the Surgeon General. And she is an organ harvester. And people are having their organs harvested. Daredevil finds out and he brings in Spider-Man to use as bait to get the Surgeon General to come to them. And it's wonderful. You get to see Matt Murdock and Peter Parker interact as friends, and then you get to see their dynamic as Spider-Man and Daredevil interacting as heroes that are friends. And there is a lot in 2 issues. Check the covers out, guys. And anybody that's watching, check those covers out. They are as wild as the 90s you would expect it to be, and the storylines are just as fantastic. And it's only 2 issues, and I think it's some of the best from volume 1, at least that far in, closer to the end. Really, really amazing. Highly recommend.
Very good.
And 305 was the first appearance of the Terror in U.S. comics. Right?
Really?
Like mainstream.
Oh,
Marvel.
yeah. Terror and Marvel continuity. Yep, that is exactly correct. And then 306, Emergency Procedure. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's awesome. Amazing. I'm going to read these after we're done. Okay. Next.
Nice. Dan's next.
All right. There we go.
All right, so yeah, I'll start at the top. I was the one that agreed with Kevin. Bored again. This is one of those storylines that you have to read, not just if you're a Daredevil fan, but it's one of those storylines I feel transcends that, and it's just if you're a fan of comics in general, this is one of those must-read stories. You
Yeah.
know, there's like Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Dark
Infinity
Knight
Gauntlet.
Rises
Yeah.
and Watchmen, and there's a lot of these things, and there's some characters that just have that one epic must-read storyline, and for Daredevil, that's Born Again. If you don't know the storyline, anyone out there, the story is that Karen Page, who has long been out of Matt's life and has had kind of a downfall, she started being an adult actress, and she got hooked on hardcore drugs, and she's down in Mexico, and she's rock bottom.
I haven't read this in a long time.
Rock bottom, and basically the only thing she has left, no money, nothing, is she knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. So she sells Daredevil's secret identity for a fix. And it ends up working its way up from Mexico up to New York into Kingpin's hands. And he uses it to systematically destroy Daredevil's life. He frames him for and it shows that it's over the span of months that he like frames him for these crimes and gets him disbarred and he loses his money, and he narrowly avoids getting locked up. Like he blows up his house. He just destroys his entire life. And there's a couple issues in the middle where like he's not even Daredevil. It's just and it's told through a bunch of different parts. So it's told through the eyes of Daredevil, and it's told through Ben Urich, and through Foggy and through Karen, and how all of it kind of intersects by the end of the story. And it's absolutely fantastic. It is to me, it is the defining Daredevil story.
Do you know what the issue numbers are for Born Again?
I believe it started with something in the 230, 220.
Oh, that far back.
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. Yeah, Born Again.
Yeah, I want to say it was 230 220, 227, I think, started it. I think 227 started it, and 233 was the final issue of it.
Yep, Born Again Apocalypse. Yep, I see.
Yeah.
Start of the Born Again storyline. So 227 through what?
233.
231. Oh, 233?
Oh, wow.
233.
Yeah, 233.
Yeah, it's
7
fantastic.
issues.
But it's one you could go to the comic shop or the bookstore or something, and you can just find the collected volume of it.
Right.
I only own 2 issues in the Born Again storyline, 227 and 229.
None of them I think are super pricey, which is funny because 232 is the first appearance of Nuke, which I know he's not a major character, but he has been seen in live action, and I mean that one you can get dirt cheap.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Fantastic cover on that too.
Is
Anyways,
that the one
moving
behind
on.
you?
What? Yeah,
The one
that's
behind you?
behind me.
Yeah.
Anyways, move on. The middle one I have is Guardian Devil. So that came out when Marvel's created the Marvel Knights imprint. This was the flagship book for it. And it was at a time when Daredevil as a character was kind of at a low point. They'd done some questionable things with him in the 90s. If you want to know what I mean, just look up his 90s armor costume. You will see.
Every character goes through their phase.
Yeah. So that was his phase in the 90s. So Guardian Devil kind of brought it back. It was written by Kevin Smith. It was drawn by Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. And it's just a fan. The runs was just fantastic. But like that first 8 issues that was the Guardian Devil story was really good. It was Karen Page had broken up with him, and he was leaning very heavily into the religious aspect of his character, and he came to be in charge of watching over this infant that was either going to be the Antichrist or the savior of the world. And it was him having to watch over the kid while keeping others at bay from it. That one cover that I had in my top covers, that was from this storyline. Artwork is fantastic. Story is fantastic. Really took the character back from kind of the dredges where he'd been for some of the 90s and really put him on the map and that's what to me started his ascent to being a great character again. Nice. And features a death of a longtime main character. I'm not going to say who, but it's a longtime main character of it that ended up dying in this story. So it had lasting consequences. And then the last one I have on there is it's 2 storylines, but one leads right into the other. Underboss / Hardcore. So it was from the Brian Michael Bendis run. So Underboss was when Kingpin had exposed Matt Murdock's identity as Daredevil, and that was something that was known through all of Marvel Comics, the whole world for years until they got rid of it. But it was the police coming after him and him getting disbarred. His life kind of just taking a nosedive because he released his identity to the world. And then the second storyline that follows that up, Hardcore, is when, like I talked about in the badass moment, where Daredevil basically beats Kingpin, dethrones him, and declares himself the new Kingpin of New York. So Bendis, Bendis had his entire run was excellent, but those 2 storylines there, I think are the highlight of it.
Nice.
All
right,
so
Sal?
What do you got? Oh, and I do want to throw in that I'll agree with Chip or with Tim. The Chip Zdarsky stuff is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
and that's a must read too.
All right, so here's my three. I went old school with a lot of these, and I really wanted to do the Born Again. I was like at the last minute, I was almost like, oh, should I put it in Born Again and take something else? So I'll give Born Again an honorable mention to check out. But for my three, I have Expose or Expose. This is Ben Urch finds out that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, and he confronts Daredevil, and he Daredevil lets him in on his history and his whole past, and you relive that tale in this issue 164, and Ben decides to not publish the story at the end, keeping his identity a secret. This was, I want to say, loosely based off this was what was used for the movie originally, with Ben Affleck. So it's a good story, and I think it really shows the defining characters of Daredevil and his motivation, or his, I don't know how to say it. His motivation. We'll go with motivation.
Yeah. What is his motivation?
What drives him? Well, So my next one is Take My Hand, Take My Hand, Brother, and that was the one I had the cover on, where he's not doing the epic fight, the cosmic level threat. This is just a Vietnam veteran that has been framed by the Kingpin. He's been targeted for assassination, and he's stopping the mob from killing him, all while also representing him as a lawyer in the court system to prove that he's been set up, and there was fraud happening, and it's not against him. So so that's why I like that story. It's not epic, but it's very powerful in itself.
Yeah.
Nice. My last one is Last Hand, and that was Daredevil 180 182, and this is where Bullseye kills Elektra. Big spoiler if you don't know.
Oopsies.
So whoopsies. But I like this story because it just drives Murdoch and Stain, and it just drives them off the deep end. But this further defines the Daredevil character, I think. For me, this is like the epic time of Daredevil, and it's really
nice,
grabs me at this point. So definitely gotta check it out.
That's got a lot of reading to do to catch up on all this.
Yeah. Do what?
I said everyone out there's got a lot of reading to do to catch up on all this.
Lots of good stories. Holy smokes. That, I think, it represents a fair chunk of amazing storylines for Daredevil.
Oh, I know. Definitely. You know what? And I would almost venture a guess and say 9 out of 10 that any story that you pick up with Daredevil is going to be pretty decent and worthy of a read. There's always going to be that one story that's like, but whatever. I don't think there's really anything.
His books are never top sellers, but they maintain.
Oh, they're solid. They're solid.
Yeah, exactly. They're solid books, and there's a reason for that. Most of the stories that are done with Daredevil are very well contained. They're very grounded. They're in this small section of the Marvel universe with very limited characters, and they tell amazing stories.
And there's so many we didn't even mention. Like you mentioned the Mark Waid thing in your coverage, but that was a great run. Ed Brubaker had a great. What was the Dark Reign?
Yeah,
Dark Reign. Yep.
The Shadowland
storyline. Like that was a great one too. Like there's so many. Like the hardest things for me when you picked Daredevil for this was instantly like, how do I narrow this down to 3 stories? How do I narrow this down to 3 writers?
Yeah. Well, I did that. I narrowed it down to 1 writer and 1 artist.
All right. Well, that leads us to our next segment then. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, like, there's so many great storylines for Daredevil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So for these storylines, let's go ahead and check out our best artist and best author for Daredevil. So, Tim, why don't you get us what you got?
So
do we have Kevin's pick as well, or no?
I do not have Kevin's for this. No.
All right. We'll forget Kevin.
Kevin's out.
He's out.
So for writer, like you both have said, there are so many good ones. Zdarsky, Micheline, the list Frank Miller, the list goes on and on and on. But the one that I had to pick was the one that made me feel the best while I was reading it, and that's Mark Waid. Mark Waid's, even though, you know, Zdarsky's run is in my recommended reading, which it most certainly needs to be, Mark Waid, I think, holds the title for me of best modern Daredevil writer, and his entire run for the Here Comes Daredevil, right? That whole thing takes Daredevil out of the pits of despair and puts him back up in the clouds where he should be for sometimes, right? Not all the time, but through that whole run, it was great. He fought Claw, he fought Captain America, he teamed up with Spider-Man, he fooled around with Black Cat and Black Widow. So he was doing a lot of stuff. Fought Doctor Doom, and so much more. The Spot. It's just so, like, all these C and D list villains. Daredevil was very happy to go and kick the snot out of all of them, and it was amazing. And he had this skip in his step and a smile on his face, and it was just a really good, really awesome storyline. So Mark Waid for my writer, and for artist, I'm gonna have to go with John Romita Jr. The stuff that he was doing during his time on Daredevil, I think that's really where JR developed and honed his craft as an artist. And the stuff that he did during that time period, like when Murdoch was in hell going against Mephisto and Blackheart and Ultron, and all that other stuff, John Romita Jr.'s artwork is top tier Marvel artwork, late 80s to early 90s. And
yep.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the best that I would have chosen. I mean, you can't go wrong with his dad, John Romita Sr., who developed the look of Daredevil, the modern look of Daredevil. But John Romita Jr., like father, like son, worked on the same character his dad did and really blew it out of the park. So
nice.
Those are my two. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, like I said, I had a hard time narrowing down writer because, like you mentioned, Kevin Smith had a great run. Ed Brubaker, I feel like his run gets kind of overlooked, but he had such a good run. And Brian Michael Bendis and Chip Zdarsky's run, like, he was so close to being the writer I picked because it's been so fantastic since his first issue up until what he's doing now, and his run is getting ready to end. And it's really been one long, continuous story. And normally when you have like one thing that kind of runs this long, I usually think like, all right, come on, let's wrap this up. It's getting old. And Zdarsky has managed to keep it fresh while where everything he's doing now is building on what he started doing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I had to go with Frank Miller. I mean, Frank Miller.
Wow.
Frank Miller defined the character for what he was in the 80s. Defined, I feel like a lot of what's come after that has just been built on what he did. Like the stuff he did with Born Again, and he created Elektra, who is, probably the most important character in Daredevil outside of Daredevil.
Yeah.
And he created her and did all that. And, the stuff he did with Bullseye and the stuff he did with Kingpin, and so much of it was just absolutely fantastic. So I had to go with him. And, I almost went with the artist that he worked with a lot, David, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Mazzucchelli.
Yeah, that guy.
But I had to go with the artist on the current series that's worked with Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto. I'm sure I mispronounced that as well. I think his artwork is just fantastic. It's detailed without being overly detailed, and it perfectly captures the mood of what Zdarsky has been writing. He has great action sequences. He does a really good job on the emotion that he draws on the characters, and I think it's absolutely fantastic stuff. So nice. That's what I got there. So let you round us out, Sal.
All right. Well, you guys have claimed it. You guys have claimed it on me already. I went with writer with Frank Miller for exactly why you said. He defined Daredevil for me in the late 80s, early 90s. It was just, the character was just popped out for me for Frank Miller. Frank Miller has done a ton of good things, but Daredevil was like maybe his top three that I think he's done
Oh yeah.
really well with. And for best artist, I went with JR.
Right
I
on.
did. It's just you're totally right, Tim. He just, he hit it out of the park with that Born Again. And I have to give a shout out to William Brown. William Brown also teamed up with Frank Miller, and I loved his artwork too. But that was a close tie for me.
Nice. So I think it's safe to say that Mark Waid, Chip Zdarsky, Frank Miller are in the upper echelon of Daredevil writers.
You got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
See, I'd say my third one would be Bendis because he had a
you
long
can't
run.
forget him.
He had a long run on there too, and he did some really good stuff too.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm not a huge Bendis fan to be, overly, but the stuff he did on Daredevil was just fantastic.
Yep. All right, so it's gonna throw a curveball at you guys. Best costume, Tim.
The red. Probably the modern version of it, like that is right here, and I'll show that again with my recommended reading. There it is, right there. That just the addition of the lines there on the suit, the more pronounced D's on the chest, and the little cutaway in the mask up top. I just really dig the crap out of that. I think that is a very good modernization on a classic suit.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with the
black suit with those razors.
I'm gonna have to probably go with the classic red suit, but I really like it when he had the black suit with where it was the red boots and not really the red gloves, but it was like the red kind of
tape.
fighter's tape almost that he had wrapped around him with that, and then the red DD and the red eyes, but the rest of it was black. Like, wow. I really like that one too. It's going to be a toss up for me between those two. But yeah, I do like the red one when it's not drawn as much as like it's just spandex, but when it's drawn more like almost like heavy duty pants and boots and and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. What about you?
I also like the classic red. I like the effect with the fighter tape around his hands, and it's kind of some of it's flying or floating off of him, like it's just not taped down correctly, so it's always kind of like in the wind there. But I do like the lines and the pronounced DD on the chest. Although the classic '80s red costume is still iconic for me, I like the little modernization of it. So
nice.
So no love for the original suit and no love for the armored suit, which. If anybody, if you don't know what we're talking about, what I'm talking about, Google it.
Grace.
Google it, and it was just a terrible, just such a bad idea for a costume.
Yes,
it was. It was the '90s. So
the Fall from Grace storyline, ladies and gentlemen, Fall from Grace.
That's right.
Yep,
that's right. All right, I think this wraps it up. We had some good covers, good readings, and good badass moments, as well as everything else. Thank you guys for your input. Nice job. And I think we could go ahead and take this one out. Any last thoughts?
If you are not a Daredevil fan, you definitely need to take the time to pick something from our recommended readings and just start there. You don't have to start at the beginning. You don't have to start with what's current. Like Dan and Sal both have said, there are so many amazing Daredevil stories. You just need to pick one and just get started, and it'll take you from there.
I agree. I agree. Dan, any last thoughts?
Just kind of piggybacking on that. If you are not a Daredevil fan and you haven't read Daredevil before, you are just missing out on some classic epic storylines.
All right. Yeah, very good. I'll echo what these guys have said. You got to at least check out at least one story. If you've never read Daredevil before, pick one thing and read it, and guaranteed you'll be sucked in.
Yep.
Okay.
Or just
All right.
watch the Ben Affleck movie.
Oh yeah, just watch the Ben Affleck movie. It's
The director's cut.
yes, the director's cut.
Or
Yes.
the TV
All right,
show
guys.
leading into the new TV show.
There we go.
I will give a quick shout out to that. The Netflix TV show was actually well done, well filmed, and I love the fight choreography in that.
Yeah.
That was
very much
so
amazing. Huh?
So I said, yeah, so fantastic. Of all the Marvel Netflix shows, that I mean was light years ahead of any of the other ones.
The only one that came close was Jessica Jones.
Yeah, it was it was so well done. Especially, and then when they had the Punisher in the second season,
yeah,
fantastic.
That was good. That was good. All right, guys. So I bet this. Let's wrap this sucker up then. As always, I am your host. I'm Sal the Slab Guy, and you can find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner. Also on Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. Down below me, we got Dan the Man. Kelly, where can they find you at, buddy?
You can find me on Instagram. Just search Dan Kelly Art, and you'll find my stuff. Give me a follow, give me some likes, and drop a comment or two, and let me know what you'd like to see me do next. And then this guy right up here, the bearded wonder himself.
There you go.
Bearded Wonder.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you could find us on all the socials, but now I'm going to tell you about an awesome website that you can go to that has our social links. That is the CODEXstation.com. Head over there to get some merch, meet the team, and so much more. All you got to do is type in the CODEXstation.com for all your Codex needs.
Definitely. All right, then. I guess this is it. Then we'll see you guys next time, and I hope you guys have a 9.8 day.